my name's Lindy Cowling and welcome to my channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. And the title of the video today is The Soulless Among Us. The Soulless Among Us. Sounds like an old-fashioned 1950s or 1960s movie. The Soulless Among Us. So, as anyone who's watched any of the videos that I've brought out before will know, mine is an experiential channel which is shared through spiritual evolutionary experience, through life experience, through experience with working with thousands of clients over a 16-year period, and a combination of those things. And so I only talk about and speak about things that are dear to my heart, that I've experienced, that I've witnessed, that I've lived through, that I've worked with, or any of those elements, and with or with clients. It's direct experience that I share from. And so today, again, this may be a bit controversial, but this is something that I've been aware of for probably about 2.5 years now. So it's not a new awareness, it's been there for that length of time. And so I'm going to explain it. What do I mean about the soulless among us? So just as on previous videos I've talked extensively about the soul, which is something I'm hugely passionate about, the soul and spirit, I've never before used the phrase soulless before. And just as the phrase implies, this is beings on the planet that are not operating through a soul, and that are not operating through our current understanding of spiritual energy, and they are essentially empty vessels that are walking around among us, breathing, going to the restroom, going to the store, functioning in apparently everyday lives, in all walks of life, including in the spiritual arena and the lightwork industry. I've seen it there too, really surprisingly. And so let me explain what I mean, because this is not to get confused with the automatic disconnect that you see and feel with a psychopath, or sometimes a sociopath, or a narcissist, and or any of those variations on the theme. Although the soulless, the empty vessel, can have those characteristics, because of course they're not connected to spiritual energy, they're not connected to soul, and so they can have those characteristics because they are devoid of emotion. There's nothing underneath. It's all a facade. So the talking is a facade, the mimicking of emotions is a facade. There's nothing to dig down into because there's nothing there, and it's different to like a narcissist that doesn't have some of those characteristics and that kind of puts on a mask. It's different to that. This is another level to that. So although that exists, narcissism exists, sociopaths exist, psychopaths exist, surprisingly commonplace. This is another level to this. Those people, those characteristics of those people are on an automatic disconnect to the spirit and soul anyway. So sometimes those characteristics overlap with what I'm describing here. Narcissists find it well, they just can't seem to keep that connection to who they truly are, the spirit and soul, through all the, you know, other junk going on of false personality and all the rest of it. You know, I'm not an expert on narcissism. I've certainly lived with it and been brought up in it, and come through the twin flame union in that as well. So I definitely have direct personal experience of it, but I'm not, and I can speak from personal experience, but I can't speak as an expert on those. But where I'm coming from on here is the soul aspect of these, the soulless among us. I've actually met in person a really really amenable lady, you know, young lady in the past, who was an empty vessel. And for ages I was trying to work it out, and I thought, well, I don't get any alarm bells, you know, this person seems really nice, really gentle. It was a really interesting experience for me, and if because your automatic perception would be soulless, empty vessel, uh-oh, that's not good. And I'm going to go into that in a minute, because actually that's true as well. There are aspects of the soulless here that aren't for the highest outcome. But this particular lady, there were none of those things, and I you know, can vouch for seeing her in many different scenarios on many different levels, and to be quite honest, there's not a bad bone in her body. But this is someone that I would describe as soulless. There's just nothing there. It's empty. It's an empty vessel. So they came in with no soul, and they're not disconnected from their soul, because that feels different again. With personality traits, when somebody's on a disconnection to their soul or their spirituality or to who they are, that's different again. Talking about totally empty. And I've worked now with them, so I've met that person in person, and that was not a bad bone in their body, no agenda, they've just not got a soul in situ. To me, that's why I haven't spoken about it for 2 years. It's like, well, can't really work this one out. But then as I've gone into my heart more and more, and as many of us are going into our heart more and more, because we have a different state of perception and a different state of awareness, then we're able to see the unseen and spot the unseen much easier than we did before. So not only have I seen a couple of these in the public eye, and also in the so-called light worker industry, totally empty. It's just nothing there. Lots of the right things to say, and lots of actually useful information being shared, but there's no one there. There's no soul there. It's really interesting, and with certain of these, it's quite I wouldn't say nerve-wracking, but it makes you a little bit wary, because it's like, well, we define human beings as having a soul and having a spirit, and it's quite unnerving to encounter people and see them in the public eye and in the media and celebrity world and all walks of life, that doesn't exist. And actually it's almost like seeing a robot in action. It's just like, you know, there's nothing there. There's nothing there underneath. And so it's taken me a long time to bring this video out, because I needed to articulate it, and I needed to try and understand it as best as I could myself before bringing it out. And all I can say is there seems to be different soulless amongst us, with kind of, I mean, I can't comment on why they're soulless, because I really don't have the knowing on that, and I can't speak on anything I don't have the knowing on. I have absolutely no idea why they've incarnated here or come in here, or where they come from, why they're not having the experience through a soul or through spiritual energy. I don't know. I go specifically on the feeling and the perception of what's going on there. There's been a couple of those I've mentioned that I don't have a great feeling about. You know, I don't feel that they are for the best possible outcome of humanity. So I don't know what's running the vessel there. I can't comment on that, but equally, like I say, I have actually met and been around really lovely, you know, one lovely person in particular, and that person was completely empty again, but there was definitely no, you know, they were just... So the point I'm trying to make here is, from my experience up to date, I can only comment on my experience up to date and my awareness up to date, is that I have the awareness that there seems to be a couple of different soulless groups among us, and how many there are I don't know. There could be vast numbers of soulless among us that we just walk past every day and we don't even know. You see, this is the thing, when you get into the heart, you have a different set of tools, a different toolkit, you have a different state of awareness. So again, I'm going to say you see the unseen, and I wouldn't have even been aware of that a few years ago, but it's something I'm aware of now. And of course, the more people that go into their heart and into that state of awareness, the more they're going to pick up on this. You know, within perhaps people they know, or even a family group, you know, people they work with, and it's a step beyond narcissism and psychopathy, you know, psychopaths. It's, like I say, sometimes those characteristics can overlap, but not because that there's a complete devoid of emotion. It's interesting. The ones I'm thinking of in the public eye, it's quite amusing to watch, actually. It's just the emotion is totally fabricated. It's really extraordinary to see it. There's nothing there. It's not that there's a distorted personality and they're hiding behind something. The vessel is empty, totally empty. So what I'm going to say here, and again this might be a bit controversial spin on it, I'm not necessarily saying empty is bad. Empty is different. And I could only make this statement because I've actually met and been around quite a few times an empty vessel who was, you know, really gentle person, really gentle being. But also what I would say is I feel that there are some here that are like everything, like some humans. You get a right mixed bag with humans. You know, some humans do appallingly awful things, what we would call evil things. Others, you know, wonderful things, and others somewhere in between. The same as I would say the soulless among us. Some I don't feel are for our best outcome, and others seem to be actually, you know, very, very placid, gentle. When I say placid and gentle, I don't mean that comes through in an emotional way. When I'm saying that, I'm talking about how you can read their energy. It's a non-threatening. It's not like a robotic-y kind of energy. You can tell it's benign, not the malignant form of the soulless. So it's just really interesting, and I know it's probably a bit controversial, probably because hardly anyone, I don't think, has ever spoken on it. And I can't comment on anything I don't have awareness of, and which is why I'm not making a statement here that I have any idea why they are here. They've obviously been here a very long time. It's not a new thing. my perception, rightly or wrongly, my perception at this moment in time is there is a mixed bag. You know, you've got positive elements to that and not so positive elements to that. You know, sometimes different is not bad, and sometimes different is not scary. It's just different, and you have to go on your own really personal perception of that and awareness of that. And it's interesting, as more and more of humanity going into their hearts, if that, I mean, it must follow that people are going to be more aware of that. It may be why there's been the sudden explosion of people. I mean, if you know, talking about narcissism, it's gone off the charts. You know, if you said to me, has narcissism increased? In the kind of society we live in, especially in the West, I would say genuinely narcissism has increased, but also the awareness of it has increased. But actually, if anything, people have suddenly gone a bit, they've grabbed hold of that term and just got obsessed with it again. And so everybody suddenly is a narcissist, and that's not in fact true. But that awareness is there, and that's not always a bad thing. It's just if it goes too much the other way again. And so it could be that a small percentage, I don't know how high this percentage is of soulless ones here, but it could be a small percentage, you know, that people are interpreting that it's actually a soulless being. But it's interesting. It'll be really interesting to me. I find it interesting, and it'll be interesting to me as humanity continues to ascend in this way, if we become more and more aware of that. And my answer to that was I'm absolutely convinced that of course we will be. Once you're looking through the eyes of the heart, you know, you're looking from an elevated state of awareness and consciousness, and you are going to see what you didn't see before, and you are going to be aware of what you weren't aware of before. And like I say, don't necessarily have a knee-jerk response there. I think you've really got to trust your own intuition and your gut feeling on it. That's what I would say, you know, because sometimes just because we don't understand something or something's different doesn't necessarily mean awful. But I can only base it on my perception at the moment, and my perception on the moment is I would almost say that. And this is only my awareness now. I might change on this awareness in a year's time or whatever, or you know, sooner than that. My perception at the time is that we have two, only because I've seen it and experienced it, two different kind of expressions of soulless beings here. Now there might be a darn sight more than that. I might be just touching the tip of the iceberg. I can only and will only ever talk about what I've directly gone through, experienced, or got my own level of awareness and perception on. It's food for thought, this one. I'm putting it out there because it's food for thought. Not as a scaremongering thing, but just to say that that is a phenomena that is here. And it's been here, I feel, for a very long time. But we've not been in a state of heart awareness, heart eyes, heart perception to see it. On that note, I will love you and leave you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and until we meet again, lots of love and take care. Bye guys. Bye bye.